Our final presentation before lunch is going to hold special interest to all of you in the room from Edmonton and area. Our next three speakers are going to discuss Edmonton's southeast to west LRT, or Light Rapid Transit project. You met Jeff DiBattista earlier this morning. Joining Jeff from Dialogue is Justin James. Justin is the BIM manager for Dialogue's Edmonton studio, providing leadership and expertise to project teams in the area of BIM and integrated project delivery. With some 21 years of industry experience, he's passionate about the benefits of BIM adoption to improve efficiency and, of course, reduce costs. These are recurring themes, are they not? From design right up through into construction. Joining Justin and Jeff today, Josh Jones from AECOM. Josh is currently the production integration coordinator for AECOM on the Edmonton Southeast to West LRT project. As a production integration coordinator, he's responsible for ensuring that all the deliverables meet the expectations of the client. Josh is also responsible for overseeing the BIM 3D work that is, of course, an integral part of this large project. Please welcome the only gentleman standing between us and lunch. No pressure, guys, just saying. Jeff, Justin, and Josh. Welcome back, Jeff. And you're going to talk to the time to your panel. Thank you so much. It's all yours.
Well, thank you for that introduction. I feel somewhat out of place because my last name doesn't start with J. We wanted to share with you today some what I'll call the practical information that I mentioned when I was up here earlier today that we are generating on the Southeast to West project that we're working on right now, the LRT project with the City of Edmonton. And we call this BIM Beyond Buildings because many people, when they hear the words building information modeling, they think of buildings. And that, of course, is not what we're doing. And Justin in our office is always saying, no. You're building an information model. It's not a building information model. And there's a very big difference. The techniques and technology in BIM can be applied to any type of construction project. And we shouldn't limit our thinking strictly to sort of individual buildings. It can apply to communities, it can apply to rail transit, it can apply to, we've seen industrial applications and so on. So we wanted to share with you today a little bit of the genesis of the use of BIM on this project, as well as some of the practical stuff that we're doing to bring the team along so that we can be successful using BIM on the project, because the City of Edmonton had never done this before on an LRT, and frankly, neither had the team. So a quick overview. We'll start off by giving you some background. I'll start off by giving you some background on the Southeast to West LRT project, just so you have some sense of context for what we're talking about. I won't get into all the details. And then try to answer the questions for you. Why BIM? Why did we make this leap to try BIM on this project? And how are we doing it? What are the parameters we've set in place to try to achieve and to try to measure our success? Justin, I'll pass the baton to Justin then, who will share some of the practical stuff about how we are making it happen and bringing the team along and giving them support and training and so forth. And then Josh will follow up at the end to say, hey, is this really working? What have we learned? What's working? What's not working? And it's a little bit like riding a bicycle. You're going to fall off a few times before you learn how to do it. But once you're riding, it's well worth the pain. So, quick overview on the Southeast to West LRT project with the City of Edmonton. The project that our team, which is called ConnectEd Transit Partnership, is now working on is the preliminary engineering assignment for the Southeast to West LRT. And from this stage, it's going to move into a P3 delivery model after the preliminary engineering is done, and that's all I'll say about that. The client, of course, is the City of Edmonton, and ConnectEd Transit Partnership is an alliance of organizations that are tasked to deliver the preliminary engineering for this massive project. AECOM is the prime consultant, and there are many other large and also specialized design team members involved. Hatchmont McDonald, ISL, and Dialogue some of the larger ones, and then there's a host of other smaller ones: GEC, SMA, Wilson Eyrig, Stuart Weir, Thurber Engineering, Gray Scott, Andrew Johnson, and ILF, amongst a few others. The first thing I want to let you know about this project is it is not the LRT system that you who are from Edmonton know, or even those from Calgary know. The Southeast to West project is very different. It's going to be a low-floor, urban-style LRT, which is integrated into the community. There is a few photos here of similar systems from Europe, and in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have picked 3 European precedents. That's Brussels up on the top left, Nottingham on the top right, and Dublin on the bottom. Several of these systems have now been built in North America, places like Seattle and Phoenix, Salt Lake City, Minneapolis. There's a few of them around, not very many. But the key difference is that the vehicle is a low-floor vehicle, and they put all of the mechanical systems and electrical systems so on top of the vehicle so that they can lower the body down, and you don't need these great big LRT platforms that we're used to seeing in Edmonton and in Calgary. And so it's much more integrated with the community. You can sort of wander out on the tracks if you want to. We don't advocate that, of course, but it's meant to be very integrated and give a whole different feeling to the streetscape. It's meant to spark transit-oriented development and to be a catalyst for urban renewal. There's a lot of advantages to using a low-floor, urban-style LRT system. So that's what we're going to be building with the Southeast to West. A few project stats, just to give you some context. It's a 27-kilometer long system from Millwoods Town Center out to Lewis Farms. Along that, there are 24 or 25 stops, depending on which day it is. There's one that was in and out again. And 3 stations. A station is one that has vertical circulation, so it's elevated or connects down to something underground. The other ones, the other 25 primary stops, are, I'll call it a bit of a glorified bus stop to give you a sense. It's not an LRT platform in the traditional way that we know them here in Edmonton or in Calgary. There's a tunnel section downtown, there's a bunch of bridges, a couple kilometers worth of elevated guideway. Actually, there's an elevated guideway rendering, which is from BIM, by the way, in the background there. And there'll be lots of civil road work and an operation maintenance facility and operation control center. Total project, if it's all built, will all be built eventually. The first phase is the southeast piece from downtown to Millwoods, but the total project right now has a budget of about $3.2 billion. System map, I won't dwell on this, but down in the bottom right is Millwoods Town Center, and over on the left-hand side is Lewis Farms. And so it runs up the east side of the city, goes right through the river valley into the downtown. Again, this is at grade, right through downtown, 102nd Avenue, and then out to the west end. So a key question for reflection this morning is why BIM, and like how are you doing this on such a big project? The reality was when the Connected Transit Partnership was given the commission to work on this project, there was originally no thought of using BIM on it. And we suggested to the city of Edmonton, we said, hey, this is a project that's going to take 8 years, 10 years, who knows how long to build and to get it operational. And it's going to be operational for the next 75 or 100 years. We need to be thinking ahead to where the design world, the operations, the asset management, all that stuff, where it's going, and we need to prepare the project for that. And so we proposed to the city to use BIM on the project. And here are the key value propositions that were discussed in that decision to use BIM at all. So we wanted to extend the shelf life of the job. For example, we know that the city is prioritizing, because of the funding arrangements, the southeast piece from downtown to Millwoods. The west is also a high priority. The funding is maybe a little bit further out. but there's a question mark around how quickly the whole system will be built. So we wanted to future-proof the design information and not be stuck using some old-fashioned 2D CAD stuff when, you know, maybe 5 or 10 years from now they want to build the West, and, you know, that's going to be completely obsolete. So we wanted to future-proof the design information and just essentially use forward-looking technology. Let's not do things the way that they've been done before simply because they've been done that way before. Of course, there are benefits of BIM for visualization. We've seen lots of that today, and we've got a little video we'll run at the end that demonstrates a little bit of that visualization. The various components of the system that we're building in BIM, we've brought together into a video so that it gives a better understanding of the overall system. So the components it's very easy to take the components you've built in BIM if you're designing, say, a station, and then that BIM model just gets ported into the video and assembled, and it's a very, very efficient way of doing things. We're using on the project what's called a risk-based approach to design. So as elements in the design that carry risk, whether it's schedule risk or cost risk or technical risk or whatever, we're prioritizing more design effort on those elements in order to bring the risk associated with those elements down, and therefore improve our ability to control uncertainty with those once things go out for bid. That means that different system components are being designed to different levels of detail, and we needed a technology that was going to be scalable with the level of detail that we were going to design to during preliminary engineering. Of course, BIM does that for us. You've heard lots about the benefits of saving time and money in construction, so I won't dwell on that. And really, again, this sort of circles back maybe to the shelf life of the design. We want to limit future rework. You know, everything we're doing now, we want to put into a format that can be best picked up by someone else in the future, whether it's a P3 contractor or the City of Edmonton or whomever is using this model information in the future. Let them be able to pick it up and run with it. And last, and this is key, is the City of Edmonton is a leader in LRT. The City of Edmonton built the first LRT system as we know it in North America back 1978, I think it was. And they want to continue to be a leader in using the appropriate and advanced technologies to deliver this project. Now, if you accept the fact that doing BIM is a good idea, the next big audacious question to answer is how much and how do we do it? And we needed to educate the City of Edmonton and frankly the whole design team about some background on BIM and some basic concepts and principles. And something we found very effective in explaining what we were trying to do was to just with a broad brush categorize the levels of BIM. And this little graphic here is something that our national BIM manager, Bruce McCallum, came up with at Dialogue. And he described 4 levels of BIM. And 2 of these you will have heard for sure before if you're a BIM junkie, lonely and social. So those are the 2 extremes. Lonely BIM is kind of the case where you've got someone who downloads the free trial off the internet and starts playing with the BIM model all by themselves, but they don't share it with anyone, they don't collaborate, they don't talk. They're just kind of doing it on their own. At the other end of the spectrum is full what we'll call social BIM, which is where the model is being shared between the designers and the contractors and the operators of the facility and the owner, and there's probably an integrated project delivery contract for shared risk and reward and all of that great stuff. And in between those 2 extremes are other levels of BIM, which we've just very roughly called shy and friendly. So shy BIM is and I'll describe this a little more on the next slide, but shy BIM is essentially the design team working within their own team members only on BIM, and then friendly is going beyond that. And friendly is in bold because that's what we recommended to the city, and that's what we're doing. So again, lonely BIM, singular disciplines, nobody's really talking to each other. We don't want to be there. That's the past. Shy, you might have a few disciplines working together, but it's an inward-looking process and not outward-looking, and we want to be outward-looking. So friendly BIM. What we're doing on the southeast to west project is the following. And I'm going to use the word unfortunately because you've already heard me say earlier today that I'm anxious to get to the point where we don't need the 2D drawings anymore, but we still have 2D drawings and specs as the contractual documents that will form the basis for procurement. Because there isn't a broader integrated project delivery contractual framework in place that we can use. It hasn't been developed yet. In fact, it doesn't really exist in Canada. So our plan is to work within the consultant team with the owner using BIM on selected components of the system, and all of that information will be shared with the contractor. However, not as an actual contractual document, as an informational document. And that's sort of key so that we can hand over the model and say, look, here's this piece of information. Please, please use it to best effect. But unfortunately, because of the contractual arrangements, it probably won't ever get to be an actual contractual document. This is where most of the world is right now with, maybe not most of the world, many of our projects that I work on, other than LRT, are sort of in this friendly BIM world. And we want to work really hard to get to the full social BIM, which again, has an integrated project delivery approach. We share the model more openly. Everybody adds value to the model. But again, there's a lot of hurdles that need to be worked out before that can all work on a regular basis. So, key principles. When we entered this project, we actually had some people telling us we couldn't do it. And for anybody that knows me, telling me that something can't be done is like waving a red flag in front of a bull. Don't tell me that. And but it was, you know, wise to listen to those words because you can't bite off more than you can chew. And we saw Landmark is using a phased approach, you know, every 6 months, increasing the amount of BIM in their manufacturing process. We're trying to do the same sort of thing. Let's take our team, some of whom had BIM experience, others did not have any BIM experience whatsoever. We need to bring them together, show them what's possible, and then make some smart decisions about the specific things that would benefit most from BIM on this project. So our key principles were, don't bite off more than we can chew. The model is not yet, at least, a contractual document. We wanted to leave our various disciplines sort of alone. We didn't want to go tell, say, track designers, oh, track designers, no, you can't use the software that you're used to using. You've got to use something else. That wouldn't work. We wanted folks to be able to use the software and the tools that are best suited to their particular discipline, whether it's track or bridges or buildings or whatever. And to do that, we needed a universal translator to get all of those components to talk together, and Justin will talk more about that in a moment. We saw the need to provide central training and support for the BIM to sort of bring people along, get them on board, get them trained up, and then when they run into problems and they fall off the bike, we need to help dust them off and get them back on the bicycle again. And the bottom line was we needed to be flexible because none of us had ever done BIM on LRT before, and we would learn lessons as we go along, give updates to the city of Edmonton over the course of time, and we'll change direction a little bit where required. These types of principles are the principles that you should be using on your projects if you're getting into BIM, whether it's sort of in manufacturing or on buildings or whatever. These are not specific to LRT, okay? That's why we're here today, is to share some of these lessons with you because you can take them away and use them on your projects as well. So as I mentioned a moment ago, we wanted each of the design disciplines to be able to use the software that was best suited for them, and we were very specific about limiting the BIM scope on the project to specific important components that we knew BIM would bring value to. So track. LRT is about trains, and trains run on tracks. Everything on the entire LRT system is referenced off where the track is. That becomes a reference line in 3D space, and we needed the track in BIM. So we have all of the track modeled in BIM for 27 kilometers. Everything's referenced off that. And the other important components that we built in BIM are the tunnels and the portals, the duct banks, which always cause coordination problems, some of the structures on the alignment, the more complicated ones, such as the river bridge and the elevated guideway that you saw earlier, and some of the buildings. We didn't model all of the buildings in BIM because some of them don't require it, but some of the buildings we are modeling in BIM, and all of the utilities are being done in BIM. And so that allows us the capability of doing coordination and design visualization and all of that great stuff with all of this information when we bring it together. So with that said, I'll pass the baton over to Justin, who will talk about how we actually bring all that stuff together.
Thanks, Jeff. Wow, I now know what an ant feels like underneath a microscope. So, first of all, is BIM software? Hands up. Good, well, I've got the right audience to start with. So, it's not. It's actually a mindset or a way of sharing. It's a theory of sharing and a theory of collaborating together. The one thing that we always forget about is how to actually do that. Everybody just jumps in and says, well, I have a software for this, and I have a theory for this, and it's fine, but no one actually teaches it and gets everybody on board right at the beginning. That's fail number one. So if the mindset isn't within your team, you are done from the start. So invest in doing that first of all, which is what we did. So the idea of me standing up here today is not to say, look how great we did. It's to actually share with Jeff and Josh of how we're actually doing it. So we're giving all our secrets away, which is beneficial to you guys. So is it the big green button? Hey, excellent. So if we know how we're going to do it, and we know the possibilities, and we're all from different walks of life, then we have to make some decisions as a group, and we have to put them somewhere. Some of these decisions were what software versions, you know, the basics, where do we store the files, how often, how to collaborate different software, who's going to model what, where do they stop, and where does the next person start, okay? This list began to grow, so we needed to put it into a specific place, and we called it the Project Execution Plan. So, just a show of hands, who has heard of a PXP before? That's a surprising amount of people. It should be a lot more. So, that's good. It's going to make me look really smart. So, I'm going to explain to you what a Project Execution Plan is. Brilliant. This is an easy sell. So, what makes, first of all, we came up with a project execution plan, then we had to come up with a universal translator, and I will try to not say this word too much today. This was Navisworks. There are others out there as well. And the third bit was a lot of communication of how to put the project execution plan together, and a lot of communication of how we was going to use the universal translator. I will come back to communication about 15 times during the next 7 or 8 minutes. The PXP, what makes our PXP different, or this project execution plan, and I'm going to hit one at a time, is that we use one. Now, the majority of you have heard of them, and you understand that Penn State have created a very good basis for us to work from as like the Bible of how to produce a PXP. The difference is that ours includes all of the information even before you get to the PXP. So the absolute basics is what I'm talking about. I'm not going to talk to you about how to use a universal translator today. I'm going to talk to you about how we actually began to think about the universal translator in the first place and how we got there. Again, lots and lots of communication. Now, if you haven't heard of what this Navisworks is, I'm going to briefly describe it so you're all on the same page. It takes multiple softwares and puts them into one place and one environment where everybody can use their models. So if you can imagine, we're working with many different people from all different walks of life and their own companies, and they all use their own software. So we had to have a universal translator that would allow us to dump all of those models into one place, as Jeff was explaining. They're few and far between to actually have a piece of software that does that, to allow us to continue with our theory. If you don't know about universal translators, I suggest that you look into them now if you're looking at doing any kind of integrated project delivery over the next 5 years, and brush up on your theory. The main message that I've put across here, and I've put it in big bold letters, is empower your team. Let them think it's their idea. How many BIM managers are in the room? Brilliant. I look even better. So, how many people that have to try and implement BIM within their company? I find that hard to believe. There's obviously people not willing to put their hands up. Are you scared? I'll start to pick on people if you don't, by the way. The others that have in the room that have seen me do a talk before know that I do pick on people. So, you know how to do it, or you are going to use a consultancy of how to do it. The first thing that you should say to the person who is going to implement it for you is to say, don't tell them what to do. You need to empower the team and then have the team think that it's their idea. Now, it is in them, it's just that they've never been given the mindset or the theory of how to put this together in the first place. So give them the idea, dangle the carrot and say, we have tons of software available that's going to enable us to do it. Allow them to make the decisions and actually get them to develop the project execution plan and the use of the universal translator for you. If you tell somebody how they're going to do something from the very start, they will revolt against you very quickly. I learnt this in the first couple of weeks. Okay, so I'm going to quote Klaus. It's probably the quickest time he's been quoted. I think it's under 24 hours, is that you cannot do this alone. He said it's last night and probably this morning as well. And you can't. You don't think that you're going to walk in, solve everybody else's problems, and you're golden and they're all just going to listen to you. Again, empower them. Now that we've decided that we are going to use a universal translator and we're going to put all of the rules and the guide into one place, a project execution plan, we needed to make a tiering system. So we needed to ensure that everybody knew what their job was. And this is often overlooked. Project planning is not just, okay, who's going to do what, it's also who's going to report to who, or who is better than who has strengths here, who has weaknesses there. Again, I'm going to harp on about this. It's all about the communication from your team and making your team gel together. I'm very fortunate enough to work with, is it Fortune or is it something that we've implemented as a team? With Josh, who's going to come up here next. I'm very lucky that Josh and I are on the same wavelength, and the team have just gelled together. I'm fortunate with that, but I believe that it's because we've actually made them feel that it's been mainly their decisions. Okay, if we're going to move forward with something, are you all happy with it? If not, then please tell us how we want to do it differently. So usually everybody's on the same plane. It's quite good. So with that in mind, we have to ensure that our BIM technicians know what they're doing. We also then create BIM captains, which look after the heads of each of those disciplines. And then we have a BIM manager such as myself or Bruce McCallum, who will overlook all of the BIM captains and bring them together in the review meetings. The one thing I will say about the BIM technicians, by the way, is include them from the start. They are our bread and butter in our industry. I actually come from that end myself. I used to be a mechanical engineer. Don't hold that against me. And I was included in meetings very early on. I just seemed to have this vision of how it all went together, and I felt very honoured to begin with. And then I thought that it was a necessity, and I've always passed that on. In our review meetings, we have everybody from all walks of life. It's not just a manager's meeting where all the decisions are made, and then he scuttles off and tells the BIM techs what they're going to do. Include them from the start. If you're going out and you're pricing a project, include the BIM techs. Include them, take them with you, because then they're going to be able to give you even more choices of what you can provide to your client. It's hugely important. So I'm going to cover each one. So project execution plan, and I'll keep an eye on time. The project execution plan includes everything, as I said, all the decisions, all the way from the start. And then it also works with the end in mind. So what we tried to, I'll give you an example. If you're creating a model and you have parameters within that model, and you click on tiny little elements, so if you've seen all this morning with all the speakers, every time you click on an element, it tells you things about it. So what material it is, how big it is, how much it weighs, who supplied it. Now, if you're thinking with the end in mind and you're thinking about operation, you could just add more parameters to ensure that facilities management is also going to be beneficial at the end of the project. Start with the end in mind. So as you can see, this is from Penn State. We took this idea a little bit further, and we expanded on the BIM descriptions. There was 27 in the PXP template, which is from Penn State, and we expanded that somewhat. We then said, okay, let's take operation first of all, and then work backwards to where we are today. So if we just modeled from just preliminary engineering, it would be so much harder for us to then work backwards and then say, well, I have a model and I have elements, and now I've got about 30,000 different elements across the model at preliminary stages. Oh, I want to think about asset management and facilities, so I'll add all those to those 30,000 elements after. Don't try and do it. Trust me, it's too difficult. Just think of the end in mind to begin with as a whole team and chuck out all those 27 possible BIM descriptions to the team and ask them to think about how they're going to use their model. They can do the work for you. You already know how to do it in the back of your mind, but a slight little bit of manipulation doesn't hurt anybody, I don't think. Did that change? No. There you go. Okay, so the PXP. Now, the universal translator, this is really easy. It's done. We've already got it. We have this translator that's going to take all the softwares and put them into one place, and it's one environment. So don't think about that too much. Think about how you're actually going to use it. So what we are not thinking about is how to use it. We just say it's there. So go back to basics again, okay? Think of the end in mind again. So the first couple of tasks that we had to think about before we all started running off and modeling was how we're going to get all the models to stitch together. So we had to ensure that when you brought one in and overlapped it, which I'll show you on my end slide, was how they were actually going to look when they were built around each other and they began to gel. And I don't want to give away my last slide too much. The second task was to ensure that they were in the correct units. Again, absolute basics. Now, once task 1 and 2 are only achievable if you know how. So how did we solve it? As a team, where did we put it? In the project execution plan. I use an example. We recently had the Vancouver team join us from an architectural standpoint and wrap the Wagner station in one of the stations, which is called Wagner, which is down to the south of the track. If you was looking at the map, it was be around the bottom right. Now, they had to add in their architectural elements, and they did it by reading the PXP, so they knew where everything was, and they were up and running in a day, and they had the model finished as placeholders just to take and say, don't hit any of my stuff. I'm taking this wrapping and I'm putting a box around Wagner Station. That's mine. Don't go near it. And they had that done in a day. So 2 days. No one was on the phone to him constantly talking to them about the project. They used the project execution plan to find out where they were filing it, what version of software they were supposed to use, you name it, all the decisions. And it was like they had just been joined on afterwards, and no one really spoke to them. I spoke to them for about 20 minutes. They were golden. They were good. Okay, so the software, and I'm going to quickly, okay, perfect. So the software, how many of you have heard this before? The software is only as smart as the person who is driving it. It's brilliant, right? The software is done. We know that. We know it's not perfect, so we give feedback and then companies change it and it improves. But you have to invest in a good trainer. This is probably one of the best bits of advice we can give you as a team here. Now, if it means training them and it means that you have to invest, then don't be tight, invest. The better that your staff are at running that software, the better product you're going to get out at the end. It's really that simple. Now, on the next slide, I'm going to give you some kind of sneak peeks of what we're looking at and some of the models, and then I'm going to show you one towards the end. So with this one, once everyone has agreed of how we use the translator, we move forward. Now, whose decisions was that? Was it mine? It was all their decisions. It's not your decision to tell them how they're going to do it. They are way smarter than you. Let them do what they're good at, which is the technology side. It's your job to implement it and keep them feeling empowered. In the background here, we can see this is the new bridge crossing over the Saskatchewan River, and then we're going to go down into a point cloud, and then you can see part of Churchill Square down there as well. And all that green squiggly spaghetti that you see underground is actually the utilities. So this is from existing services that we have under the city. So with the basics out the way, we then had to talk even more for the more advanced features. So we had to think about how we was going to report the clashes, how we're going to review the captures, how we're going to add notes, all of which had to be added to one place, which again was the project execution plan. So again, you can see this project execution plan is expanding and becoming the rule book. We're using it on a number of other projects within Dialogue at the moment. It's actually proving very beneficial to keep everybody on the same page. I don't know of any other document that's keeping everybody on the same page when it comes to BIM, so I'd love to hear it from you afterwards, and I'll expand my knowledge as well. The whole point of this forum is for us to speak. So, again, I've done this before on other projects of how to produce clash reports. So with a little bit of manipulation, you can make them feel that it's actually their decisions and they come up with it, and I think that's just fantastic. A little bit of manipulation, it's not bad. The background here, as you can see, is a clash recording. This is just a viewpoint. We've added some notes on there. Just under the word clashes, there's a distance between the two top piers of the bridge, and we just put a little note in there. And the number 2, which is going off, is just a way of us tracking the comments. Now, if you don't like this format, we can actually export this into an HTML format. Some people always get nervous about, okay, so how are we going to share the information if we don't have that technology as well? You can just send them a web link and it will come up as nice little pictures with text and saying how much that it's overlapping by, where it is in coordinates X, Y, and Z, and also any comments that I've added or any other member of the team has added. So it's just fantastic. Again, we add it to the PXP. So using this single platform, excuse the pun, but we've got Wagner Station here, the platform. We have weekly BIM model review meetings. This brings the models together. We don't want people to work in their silos, which is why we're having these more and more frequently. On a previous project going back 8 or 9 years now, we were having these design review meetings or model review meetings 3 times a day. And I can imagine Josh is having a little miniature heart attack in his chair there, thinking of how much time I'm going to steal the main boardroom. But these become more and more frequent. Again, the whole way that we hold these meetings has been decided by the team and not myself. It's really important. You've all heard of the McLeany curve, I would hope. Just a show of hands. Okay, you recognize it when you see it. It's 4 lines on a graph. And what it says is basically, if we can put more effort into the design and we can speed it up by using the technology to apply our theory, then we can move away and save more money when it comes to the construction phase of the project. Now, we have all the tools to do that now. We didn't before. So I'm asking you to manipulate what you have and use the software to work for you and not the other way around. So closing, I'm just going to show you a very quick example. Hands up if you know what point cloud is. Good. Oh, now we're getting somewhere. So I don't look so fancy now, which is a shame. Now, point cloud, millions of points. This is from Stuart Weir, who supplied this to us. This is the China Gate in Edmonton, a very familiar site, which is why I used it. We then superimposed the track bed onto the model, which is a separate model, a different software. It's very important to explain. We then superimposed the duct banks, which Jeff mentioned was a very important element of our models to ensure that that they followed the track and that we had some kind of virtual environment of where everything was going to go. We then added the existing utilities, and it gets a little bit messy. It looks like Spaghetti Junction underneath there. And then we had a no-fly zone, which we had to incorporate and attach to the track, which will show up in red here. Now, as soon as it shows up, we can see that our utilities are now really clashing with that no-fly zone, which was something we could not have. So we call these DEFCONs, the DEFCONs 1 to 5, or 5 to 1, whatever way you read it. And we had to ensure that we use these meetings to really manipulate the models and feed information back to the city. So that's my portion up with. I hope I've explained that clearly. The one thing I'd say before I pass on to Josh is keep it simple. I've said this quite a few times in other presentations. It's BIM, okay? And the information can be used as little or as much as you like. If you want to go back to 3D modeling, then just call it 3D modeling. If you need to simplify it in your heads, it can be that simple. The information, let your geeks attach all the information, and then they'll tell you how you can use it later on. Let your team work for you as well. If you are scared to start, man up. Simple as that. Okay? You will be forced to, because the technology drives our industry whether we like it or not. This theory has been planted within us, and it's not going away. And if you still don't feel comfortable, come and ask us. We're dialogue. Okay.
Thanks, Justin. I have, I think, 4 minutes, so I'm going to try to fly through my slides that I have here. Now, we've talked a lot about BIM and on this project and other projects. Now, it all looks like roses and champagne and all great, but we do have some lessons learned that we wanted to discuss this morning. So, when we approached the city was sort of a little leery on it. They didn't say, are we really going to get what we wanted to get? Is it really working the way that we wanted it to do? Well, we've got to take a step back and say, well, why did we want BIM? Why did we choose it? We chose it for some of those factors that Jeff talked earlier, risk mitigation, visualization, collaboration. And are we achieving those? Yes. So on our project, the way we measured success was the way we achieve those factors here. So yes, it is working the way we wanted it to. Has it impacted the schedule? Many people are concerned that as we delve into BIM, that our schedule will be affected in a negative way, especially at the startup. Now, we do have some startup jitters and some little things in the beginning that prevented people from continuing on in BIM, but we've actually noticed some positive impact. It limited the amount of rework. It's easier to see some of these clashes. One of the examples that I use often is one of the first times that we loaded the bridge model on top of the track model, they were out by 2 or 3 meters. Now, we didn't need to do a clash detection on that. We loaded the models quickly, says, oh crap, we need to adjust. We need to figure out what the problem was. Was it the track or was it the bridge? And we made that quick adjustment. And that those guys may have been working along this path for a month or two before realizing that the alignment was out. But we were able to identify those things early on. Would we do it again? Well, like I said, we had some jitters. We've had some problems. It's not been great, but yes, we would do it again. We would ensure that we would have better identification on some of the level of detail. Obviously, with such of our big team that we alluded to before, numerous partners, numerous firms, numerous programs being used, it's hard to collaborate that. So our next stage, we would definitely do it again. We want to make sure that those rules are set in place early on. Now, does the client see the benefits? Unfortunately, we won't have the time to show within the presentation our movie, because I know you guys are all waiting for lunch. So what I'm going to suggest that perhaps we play the movie right after we dismiss, so we can let it play on the screen while people are grabbing their lunch. But one of the key factors that the city wanted to use BIM was this visualization. And the city has seen the visualization impact. We've used that to create videos for the public involvement sector. We've brought the city in to see some of our models directly so they can see how we are using the models. They can now have better confidence that their design will actually work in our urban setting. Jeff touched on it before. We are designing this LRT in an urban platform. We're not using existing railway lines where we have lots of space, lots of green space to work in. We are trying to integrate it into communities, into downtown, into existing right-of-ways. The confidence the city has by opening up these models and seeing, yes, it can work, or hold on, there's an area that we need to look into. Maybe we need to purchase more property. Maybe we need to rethink our design. The city has that level of confidence now in the design at the stage that we're in right now. So we have those pros. We can clearly see some of those coordination issues. It assists in the visualization of the issues and possible solutions. It aids in the development of some of these public information materials. Not only are we using videos, but we have many screenshots that we're using, and many of the items that you see in some of the backgrounds that we see before, we've used that in public involvement. And like I said, the confidence in design is increased by the client and the technical staff. However, we do have cons. There's no doubt about it. We're not all on the same level. We have a very large team, multiple disciplines, all at a different understanding of what BIM or 3D is, which correlates into the different levels of detail that are in each model. And then we have the different levels of buy-in. Some companies are, like Dialogue has said, some companies are, all in it. They just want to go full blazing into BIM. And other guys are like, hold on, we're not really quite ready yet. So that is some of the difficulties that we've been trying to work through in the last few months. And then controlling the level of detail in the BIM model and clash detection results. Obviously, you can see by just Justin's little snapshot, one little area has numerous clashes. The intent of our level of design right now is not to solve all of those issues. It's to really understand the issues and to provide some information on how we can mitigate those problems in the future. So that has been a con because some people they see these models, they see the clash reports, and they're saying, oh, we need to move this, we need to do that, we need to do this. And that's where I come back and say, no, hold on. Let's just identify that right now, see what high-level solutions we can come up with to mitigate these risks, and so on. And then you have the techs go into their BIM models, and they're getting all excited about it, and they want to add in, nails and screws, and we're like, no, we don't need that level of detail right now. So that is one of the cons that we have been seeing lately. But that's all the time that we have. Sorry I rushed through my couple slides. I would like to talk more. I'm available over the lunch hour, but I do have to leave this afternoon. But I do hope that we can play the video over the lunch hour because it is very good. It's about 4 minutes.
Maybe we'll let our people go to lunch, grab it, and come back in.
Sure.
Have a critical mass, then we'll put it up while everybody's seated.
Excellent.
Fireball?
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Thanks very much.